Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I have my husband with me and we are doing a Q&A. I sent out a post asking for all of your questions and I got a huge response, so we'll try to get through as many as we can. And we'll get started. How did we meet?
How did we meet? Wow, it'd be 30 years ago? Bellflower High?
Backstage during South Pacific rehearsals. I went up to him and introduced myself.
The rest is history.
It was magical. Didn't you say that?
Agreed.
The next question is actually, why do I change my hairstyle so often? And that one is just because I like to. I don't know. I've always experimented with my hair, and ever since I was little, I liked playing with makeup and hair and experimenting, and it's just an outlet for me. So, next question. What made you guys go into fostering?
Well, you had talked about it since, I think, before we had any kids.
Yeah. I knew that I wanted to foster and or adopt since before we had kids, since we were dating, because that was just something that I always wanted to do. I think I told you that I wanted to have 10 kids. And so he knew.
We're 60% there.
Yes, we are. 4 more to go. But yeah, it was just always something that we knew we wanted to do. Oh, that's not my password. This is your phone. How many kiddos of yours are biological and how many are adopted? So we have 3 biological and 3 adopted. Our 3 oldest are our biological. Our 3 younger are our chosen children.
Is adoption expensive? I guess it can be, for sure. The good news is when they come through the foster care system, there are virtually no costs for the adoption. I think all we paid something extra, to get a lawyer to expedite the process at the very end, to kind of get you bumped up a few places for your court date, but then that was reimbursed. So I mean, our net cost as far as adoption would be 0.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
less a few trips to Riverside or Baldwin Park.
Yeah.
The time involved there. But
yeah.
It's not like
court.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. The time that it takes. And then, I mean, obviously there's out-of-pocket expenses that you're going to be paying for, just unforeseen things that pop up. But for the most part, the adoption itself through the foster care system is virtually free. Do you focus on special needs kiddos, or is it later found out that they have a condition? I always wanted to do special needs. I read a book many years ago called Acres of Hope, and it was about a couple who adopted, I forget how many children internationally, and they opened a huge farm house where they adopted all of these children, and they had this huge home somewhere, and it was just beautiful and wonderful, and all of their children had special needs, and they were medically fragile, and that was where I had seen myself or us going, but that's not where we were destined to go. We were more pointed into special needs in more of a neurobehavioral standpoint.
Okay.
So,
question in that the trick was, I mean, pretty much all the kids we've had have come with the bare minimum of information, which is kind of tricky, other than just in general terms as far as the health and what was known of the status of the mother. So I guess you could say we knew that there was a good chance that there would be medical issues, but there were a lot of unknowns at the time that the children were placed with us.
Yeah, definitely. There's always unknowns. It's just, you just don't know, and you just have to have a lot of faith and trust that, because people would always say, like, or we would ask when we were first starting the process, like, how do you prepare yourself? Like, how do you know? Like, give us like an example of a situation, and nobody could really. That should have been our first clue. Nobody could give us a really good example, because there is no perfect example, because every situation and every placement is so unique. And so you just never know what's going to happen until you're in it. But that's why it's important to take the classes and to have the tools necessary to be able to handle the situation and to have a whole lot of faith when you're going. Why FASD?
Why? Because that's what we were granted. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's not like we went hunting for children with that particular thing, but it's very, very common in the foster care system.
Up to 70% of children in foster care have been prenatally exposed to alcohol. That was a statistic we didn't know, right. And I don't think our social workers knew either. And
alcohol and, a variety of other substances as well.
Right.
All prenatally.
Yeah. We didn't go looking for that, but that's what we have. Does having extra kids affect your marriage?
Well, as you can see, it sure makes for never a dull moment, for sure.
I mean, it just makes things extra challenging to try to find time for each other. It definitely makes it, you have to work harder to communicate and to find time to spend together and be creative in that.
Number 5, do your own kids feel left out? Well, I'd start by parsing that and saying they're not own and other kids. They're all ours from the beginning, and once we go through the court process, then they're 100% completely legally, as they say in court, with all the same rights, and I forget what the verbiage is, having heard it 3 times, but it's been a while now.
Yeah.
But essentially, there's absolutely no distinction at that point. So they're all own kids. If we're talking about, the original 3, do they feel left out? I'd say they definitely don't feel left out, because there's no way to be left out with what's going on in the household. I guess to parse that further and say, do they feel like maybe then they ended up not having as much time spent individually with them as they might have otherwise? Then absolutely, there's no way around that. But it's an all for one sort of thing, because it's just the way it has to be.
Yeah, and especially when you have special needs kids, then it can definitely be a lot harder on the family, and depending on the personality of the kids too, it can cause a lot of friction, and it can be challenging for sure. I mean, there's no other way. There's no other way to sugarcoat it, for sure.
Is the stress of the extra needs worth it? Not sure what we're asking. What's worth? Is it stress? I don't understand the question.
Is the stress of
worth what?
Is the stress worth it? Is the stress of everything
worth
that
what?
We do worth it? It's all glory and honor to God, so it's absolutely 100% worth anything that we do. If it brings honor and glory to God, it's worth it. What's the next one?
How do your kids feel about having other kids come and go? Well, it's been years and years since kids have come and gone.
Yeah.
And it was always tricky, but I think at each time they welcomed in the new kids, and enjoyed having them while they were here and were sad to see them go, but I think everybody also understood it was a happy time when they left, if that meant that they were being reunited with families or that, problems that existed were corrected and they were able to go back to their family. That's the best case scenario. So
Yeah.
little sad on this end to see them go, but, to serve that greater good, that's the whole purpose of fostering.
Yeah, for sure. There were times when we got to reunite kids with their parents, and it was the best feeling in the world to be able to reunite them with their moms and dads. Why homeschool? Shouldn't kids like that be where they have services for them? So we homeschool through a public charter school, so they do have services. They have the same IEP services that they do in public school. It is actually a public school. So who pays for all the medical costs?
All the foster kids come pre-equipped with Medi-Cal, which is good. So they've got that to work with, but they're also on our own insurance because there are certainly plenty of shortcomings in the Medi-Cal system. Just
that
going down to as far as what
doesn't
doctors they can see and that sort of thing.
Okay, last question.
Why did you adopt certain ones and not others? Well, I don't think it was a case that we're picking and choosing. It was more the ones that were able to stay that didn't have a family to go back to. Those were the ones that stayed. And with 2 out of the 3, there was basically absolutely nowhere for them to go. So that was absolutely the only plan with them, I think, from day one. With Leah, there was a little more family involvement, so that stretched the process out some, but eventually it became apparent that, that reuniting with her family wasn't going to be a good option for anybody. So went that route, and then all of the other kids eventually went to where they were going.
Or went to where they were supposed to go. So, anyways, as you can see, our hands are full, and so we're going to go for now. There's lots more questions that we could answer, but we're going to keep this one relatively short for now. If you have any more questions, please leave them in the comments below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will do more videos like this if you guys like them, okay? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.